Hello and welcome to the first of a series of top 10 lists I've compiled. Until now they've only existed as text on my blog, but now I've decided to make video versions and upload them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm sure you can guess why. Now before we start, there are a couple of things I feel I should point out. Firstly, to prevent myself from overwriting stuff, I generally aim to keep the explanatory captions in my lists limited to 100 words or so, 105 at most, except for the number 1 pick when I'll allow myself to elaborate a little more. Secondly, I've tried to record these videos on camera before, but I just feel too self-conscious and uncomfortable sitting at home alone talking to a camera. But after I saw some YouTubers present their videos through voiceover and avatars, I decided that was the best approach for me. For the record, this is my real face that I was trying to replicate. Not the best match in the world, is it? So with that out of the way, let's start with my favourite video games. This should be an interesting one. While I did grow up playing games and still maintain an interest in it today, I'm not what you'd call a gamer. Actually, my best friend's a far more avid gamer than I am, and it's thanks to him that I came across many of the games on this list in the first place. But with that said, I have played several that strike me as real masterpieces. So many, in fact, that I had to extend the list beyond a top 10. At first I excluded retro games from before the days of 3D graphics and voice acting, because I figured you needed to put yourself in a different state of mind when playing those. But I did include some games that simulate that retro style, and even one or two from the transitional period between the 2D and 3D eras, so I eventually decided, why not? So what was a top 15 became a top 20 list. Now keep in mind this is just how the list stands at this particular point in time. There are tons of games that I really want to play but just haven't got around to yet. For example, I haven't played the Witcher trilogy, Zelda Breath of the Wild, or Spider-Man on the PS4, among many others. I'll get to them eventually, but for now I'm just prioritizing other things. I should point out, by the way, that most of these games aren't exclusive to the platforms I specify. Most modern generation games are released for every console as well as PC. I've played several of these games on multiple platforms, I'm just listing the ones I like best. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 20, Grim Fandango Remastered. The original Grim Fandango, despite being a commercial failure, has since become a cult classic thanks to its story, humour, and endlessly fascinating setting, which draws from classic film noir and Aztec beliefs of the afterlife. This remastered version not only gives the modern generation the chance to experience it, but it's much more user-friendly to boot. In typical adventure game fashion, the puzzles often seemed cryptic at first, but I appreciated the game all the more once I got used to them. It's hard to define what makes something cool, but I can't think of any better word to sum up Grim Fandango. Number 19, Mario Kart Wii. Easily my favourite racing game ever. I'd say this is when the Mario Kart series hit its peak, though admittedly this was my introduction to the series and I haven't played many of the others. Including several courses from past games, as indicated on the menus, was a nice touch, but it was the steering wheel controller attachment that added a whole new layer of immersion. Plus, of course, there's the cheerful charm of the Mario characters and the power-ups that add to the excitement. It's such a thrill to get a red shell and send it flying at the opponent ahead of you. Number 18, Half-Life 2. I'm not a big fan of first-person shooters, with the exception of Half-Life. What won me over is, like Grim Fandango, the sheer inventiveness of the setting. I love every component of the world it creates, the premise, the characters, the technology, the alien creatures, everything. And all the different environments you see as you go on your journey keep things fresh and captivating. At times it even gets scarier than anything I've seen in an actual horror game. The game's physics engine and use of scripted events instead of cutscenes must have been groundbreaking, and even by today's standards, the graphics still look gorgeous. Number 17, Wandersong. This is one of those indie games that's positively bursting with imagination, arguably even more so than big budget titles. The premise is unbelievably inspired. I love the idea of saving the world through music. The central mechanic is the song wheel, where each of the 8 coloured sections represents a note in an octave, and it's amazing how versatile the song wheel proves to be. It also has a great sense of humour. I especially love the way it satirises the conventions of saving the world stories and the role of the hero. It's all topped off with delightfully charming visuals and a great ending. Number 16, Secret of Mana. I typically don't like RPGs, but Secret of Mana seems like it was purpose-built to address all my issues with them. Instead of the usual gamble where you go into combat unsure if you're at a high enough level, it uses a system of charging your weapons to a certain level each time you upgrade them. So while there is still a grind involved, you always know what the upper limit is, and you're leveling up your own skill at the same time. On top of that, the graphics are adorable, and the music is some of the best I've ever heard in any game. Number 15, Far Cry 3. I'd heard great things about this game, but didn't expect it to completely blow me away like it did. The story is just fantastic, a psychological journey of a man finding his identity as a warrior. But the gameplay experience itself is so amazing that I just can't do it justice. The missions can be tailored to your preferred gaming style, which for me is stealth. I have fun just exploring the island. The tropical scenery is pure bliss to take in while searching for radio towers or enemy outposts, and it makes me feel like I really am walking among wild animals. Number 14, Super Metroid. Metroid was one series where the transition from 8-bit to 16-bit was exemplary. Basically, Super Metroid took an already great game and perfected it. It's a giant maze that's tremendous fun to explore. Often the fun lies in finding ways you can't go until you find a certain upgrade that you realize will open up that path. The opening immediately hits you with a superbly creepy atmosphere, almost like a full-on horror game. From then on, the scenery and top-notch music keep things suitably moody throughout, and the ending is one of the best in gaming history. It truly deserves its status as a classic. Number 13, Dino Crisis. When I was a teenager, this was probably the game you'd find me playing most often. I've always loved dinosaurs, but this is one of very few titles to unlock their potential to be scary. The best aspect is how rarely the dinosaurs appear, which really keeps you on edge because you know there could be another one around any corner. That's what makes good horror. The story does get increasingly preposterous, but I'm willing to let it pass. I still get swept up in it. Plus, I dare you to ignore that cold shiver when the screen shakes as the T-Rex gets closer. Number 12, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I think Sonic 3 and Knuckles may be superior as a game, but this one simply means more to me. If we were judging by the depth of my connection with the game, Sonic 2 would undoubtedly top the list. It was quite possibly the first game I ever played, certainly the first one I completed myself. I got to know it so well that I'd often run through the whole game in the morning before school. Some levels are more frustrating than others, but I love them all and every music track. And I'll never forget beating the final boss for the first time. Number 11, a tie between Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario World. Every Nintendo console has its own definitive Mario title, from the original NES trilogy to Super Mario Odyssey on the Switch. In any generation, the sheer charm of the characters and music evokes an irresistible childish glee. But I'd say these two titles, which bridge the 8-bit and 16-bit eras, remain the series' apex, as well as the gold standard for platforming. Super Mario World used Mario 3 as a template, which proves how great Mario 3 was when I still think it can compete with it. Each world you explore is distinctive, and you can store power-ups in case you need them later. Number 10, To the Moon. Another indie game. Its storytelling is absolutely stellar. It's about two doctors granting a dying man his wish to go to the moon through a machine that can delve into his memories. Not only does the psychological concept make it thematically rich and open to discussion, but it's superbly emotional too. Seriously, if you're not in tears by the end, then there is a big black gaping hole where your soul should be. I think the game's old-school minimalist style plays a big part in that, the SNES-style graphics, the dialogue being in text, and on top of it all, the exceptional music. Number 9. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. As I said before, I grew up with Sonic. I didn't get to play the classic Nintendo franchises until much later. Ever since it entered my life, Link to the Past has remained not only my favourite Zelda game, but the absolute best retro game I've ever played. It essentially takes the original Zelda and gives it the best new coat of paint possible, providing not one but 2 parallel open worlds to explore in between the main dungeons, each of which has their own unique gimmicks and puzzles. It proved influential on several other Zelda titles. Even Ocarina of Time copied its story structure. Number 8. At least 5 Telltale games. This may seem like cheating, but if I were to count all my favourite Telltale games individually, they'd take up half the list. They're that good. Many of their early games, like Sam & Max and Strong Bad, are outstanding laugh riots. But it was The Walking Dead that put them on the map and set the standard for how storytelling and choice-based games should be done. With some exceptions, I can usually count on Telltale for quality stories populated with irresistible characters. Plus, they almost always perfectly captured the spirit of the franchises they adapted, to please both fans and newcomers alike. Number 7. Psychonauts. This game is like a masterclass in wit and creativity. The eponymous Psychonauts are basically elite soldiers with enhanced mind powers, and you play a boy in a psychic summer camp. You occasionally go inside people's minds, and the representative worlds are all distinct and ingenious, and usually loaded with laugh-out-loud humor. True, the jumping controls can get really frustrating, and you may find it drags on a bit with more false endings than Return of the King. Yeah, no joke. But it's still a ton of fun to play, and it's bursting with so many clever ideas that it never ceases to amaze. Number 6. Batman: Arkham Asylum. This game is a Batman fan's dream come true. Simply setting it in Arkham Asylum is the perfect excuse to throw in as many Batman villains as you want, but never to the point of insanity. They're all relevant to the story. I definitely don't consider combat my strong suit, so I'm glad the combat here is simplified to a few basic commands. You just tell Batman basically what to do and watch him do his thing. Throw in the untouchable Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and the result is possibly my all-time favourite incarnation of Batman, right up there with the animated series. Number 5. The Sims 2. Who would have thought that the concept of simulating everyday life would become as big a hit as it was? The countless ways in which The Sims 2 improved on the original Sims made my head spin. You have access to just about everything you could ask for to make your Sims home life complete. Since I don't tune into much TV, I sometimes use The Sims 2 as my alternative, a TV soap that I have complete control over. I haven't played The Sims 3 or 4 yet, but maybe they'll take 2's place on this list at some point in the future. Number 4. Fahrenheit, known in the US as Indigo Prophecy. Fahrenheit, when I first came across it, was unlike anything I'd ever played before. It's a murder story in which you play both the murderer and the police on the case, both equally determined to find the truth. It starts out relatively slow and gradually pulls you in, mainly thanks to its marvelously potent atmosphere, assisted by memorable characters and absolutely fantastic music, so you're soon seized inescapably in the heart-stopping excitement that develops. The very user-friendly format of the QuickTime events, moments where you simply have to press the right button at the right time, which dictate the action scenes, certainly helps. Number 3. The Mass Effect trilogy. Mass Effect, to me, is a top contender for the best trilogy in all of fiction. Although Mass Effect 2 is my favourite because its core focus is character development, I consider all 3 games one complete unit. You can't have any one without the other 2. The trilogy became my new obsession from the moment I first played it. My main investment was in the romance I had going with the ever-adorable Tali. I came for the romance but stayed for everything else. The whole package is spellbinding. All the components of the Mass Effect universe, the story, but most of all, the characters. Number 2, Beyond Good and Evil. Oh my god, I love this game! I can't possibly praise it enough. The world of Hillis, combining humans with anthropomorphic animals, is probably my favourite fictional world ever. It has a brilliant story involving a rebel organization exposing a deadly conspiracy concerning an alien menace. It's packed with stealth sections that truly get your heart pounding, but it also has intense combat scenes, flying scenes, and even racing scenes. It has everything you could ask for. And the music. The whole soundtrack is outstanding. Any way you look at it, Beyond Good and Evil is a masterpiece. I adore it to death. And my number 1 favourite game of all time is the Portal games. Yeah, I just couldn't choose between the two. They're basically puzzle games involving portals, but with a storyline that catapults them straight to elite status. Portal 1 stood solo at the top of my list for a long time because it's the most perfect piece of entertainment I've ever seen in terms of atmosphere and story progression. I used to think Portal 2, though superior to the first one in many ways, somewhat spoilt the original by elaborating on a bit too much backstory. But it's grown on me, and now I just can't get enough of it. Both have their own strengths. Portal 1 is much darker and grittier, providing a flawless sense of complete isolation, while Portal 2 offers a wider array of puzzle elements, and is a lot funnier than the original to boot. Which is not to say for a second that the original was a comedic dud, but the sequel has more and usually better gags. In any event, either one on its own is easily the most fun I've ever had playing a game. Both of them are staggeringly creative, hilarious, gripping, and, like I mentioned before, just all around perfect. Honourable mentions: Batman Arkham City and Batman Arkham Knight are both in their own ways superior to Arkham Asylum, just let down a bit by my usual distaste for sandbox games. Castlevania Symphony of the Night has story-based rewards for thoroughly exploring the castle, and it's a nifty transition between 2D and 3D games. Chrono Trigger is another RPG that overcame my bias. It's far more to my taste than Square's biggest hit series, Final Fantasy. Donkey Kong Country is another platformer that's so much fun that even once you get into the first stage, it's hard to stop playing. Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock was my first time experiencing this series' fun, immersive gimmick, and it introduced me to many rock songs that became new favourites. Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and Episode 2 continue the story so well that I'm still pissed that Valve never followed up on Episode 2's ending. Jurassic Park Operation Genesis and Jurassic World Evolution are park simulator games with dinosaurs. What more do I need to say? I'm not sure which of the two I prefer. Metroid Zero Mission is a remake of the first Metroid that, thanks to the extra features it adds, is almost on par with Super Metroid. 3D Movie Maker was one of the games that dominated my childhood. It was that program that made me want to become a filmmaker. And What Remains of Edith Finch is an outstanding psychological tale, worthy of its reputation as an example of video games as art. Thanks for watching. Whether or not you agree with my picks, I hope you enjoyed the list. If you haven't played any of these games yet, I highly recommend you give them a try. I have to say, I feel kind of guilty for putting so many ties on this first list. I assure you, the others will be different.